And we're here.
Hello.
Live in Texas.
I guess we are Author Adventure. So this is episode 34. Can you believe we've got 34 episodes?
34 episodes. Man, we're cranking it out.
Just a couple of times, cool 12. What was I saying? A cool million? No, that's not right. But but yeah, it is. I mean, the author adventure is just so exciting, and everybody's author adventure is so different, isn't it, Russ?
Yeah,
so, we've had some amazing people on the show. We'll have some amazing guests for you coming up here. A couple of them you've met before, and maybe a couple of them you haven't. And so we just wanted to take today, we have a big conference coming up next week. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about some expectations there and see what people hope to do or learn or find out or just experience. And but before we do that, is there any kind of tip we want to share? Any kind of secret? I didn't really have a planned secret, but I'm sure you and I could think of something.
Oh, I could think of dozens of things. And one of the things that I think is really important, just like this podcast, Liz, and a lot of authors may or may not think about this or consider it. However, getting on podcasts is an important part of the process of visibility and building your authority as an author. And I think one of the things that you can do that's an easy thing to create, and you can do it in any number of ways, is create a podcast bio that you can actually share with podcasts that you want to get on, that provides all the detailed information. You have a short bio, a longer bio, headshots, and some of the things that you can talk about and share with that community to add value. Because one of the things that we love to do as an author is, receive more exposure and build our community out. And having a piece of content like that you could share easily with a podcast host or somebody booking shows, and you can actually take that and you can send it as a link, or you can send it out as an attachment in a PDF, and just have something in place that is easy to send and easy to transfer to somebody that can help you get on another show. Because it's a simple process. It takes a little bit to put that in place, but you can list your books, you can list your topics, you can list your content that you've developed over time, and maybe some other shows that you've been on. So I that's a tip of the day from me, and hopefully you can expand on that.
Well, yeah, and that's a great tip, because even Russ and I, who have our own podcast, we have this podcast together. I have a podcast called Wild West Diversity, as some of you know. Russ has another podcast called The Pirate Broadcast, where he interviews interesting people doing interesting things. But even us, we're on other podcasts. Just this past week, I was on a show. Basically, it was really a terrestrial show here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's for one of the big broadcasting radio stations here that has about 6 or 7 radio stations. So my interview went out to 6 or 7 people on Sunday, and now it's been archived to KRLD, which is one of our big news programs that's been around for more than 50 years, at least all of my life. And so that was a fun conversation I had with Chris Arnold, who's a local radio personality that's very well known. He's the voice of the Mavericks, and he used to do some Dallas Cowboy stuff. And as a local sports show. So, I was on with Chris as a guest. He was the interviewer. He was asking me the questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on
Well,
a show Saturday night, for another one called In the Moment, which is talking about how you overcome struggles. And if you're an author, you certainly have some struggles to overcome.
exactly. And the reality is all of these platforms, whether it's traditional media or online media, are searching for content. And if you can provide a valuable conversation and some content that can help their community out, they're more than willing to have a conversation. So don't be shy, reach out and make those connections and those introductions to even television stations and radio stations and podcasts and places where you can actually go and achieve a bigger audience. And speaking of a bigger audience, Liz, there's an event coming up in the next little while that I think we want to talk about today. What is that event?
We do. We want to talk about the Texas Library Conference, and we're going to have some of our authors on today. And actually, one of our authors who's not quite got her book ready yet, we're in the pre-production stages, but Merrie has a background in PR and communication, and maybe she'll share some tips with us that she shared with, that she's done with clients, because she's had plenty of clients who are trying to get more awareness and who want to build community and want to build relationships. And so let's bring some of those folks on.
Let's bring a couple of other conversations to the party today. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. We'll go around the room.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, we start at the top, or we'll start at the bottom, so Merrie will get her feet wet, because Kathleen and Bill have both done this dance before. So Kathleen, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Bill, and then we'll come around to Merrie.
All right. Well, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. It's so good to see you all, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. And I'm super excited to have my books, The Adventures of Froggy T and Bunny. The first one was The Reunion, which came out 2 years ago. Then Bunny Gets Bullied came out last year. And I'm super excited that Feeling Feelings just came out last week.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes. And the shipment came in early. So I will actually have them with me next week. So yes, I'm super excited.
Super excited. Well, and Kathleen is a psychologist by trade. She started as a school teacher in education. And so, but she had this series in her mind, and it really was an interesting story. Merrie and Bill, I don't know if you heard it, Bill, but she basically had written a poem or birthday card to a friend, and then that ended up being her book. And so you never know where the inspiration is going to come from. Mm-hmm. You just got to follow that inspiration. And Kathleen, her husband, her wonderful husband, Ed, are going to come down to Texas from Pennsylvania. They're in Philadelphia or outside there. And so they're going to travel a ways to get here. And then Bill's going to travel a little ways from Tennessee to come over and see us. So tell us a little bit more about what's been going on, Bill.
A lot of things, actually. You talk about being on podcast interviews. I've been on a bunch of them, and it's where people reached out to me. One was with a major media publicist in New York. Michael Shields has a wonderful website called Across the Margin, and that interview just went everywhere. I mean, it went all over the country on many platforms.
Oh no.
To the point now that the book, the novel Assassin's Manuscript, is now on sale in 37 different countries.
All right.
And I'm convinced it was partly because of the interview I did with Michael Shields. But then last week, I did another one with a major media figure in Cape Town, South Africa. It was also on StreamYard like this one. And Brigitte Lynn Banda is her name. And she has a program called Writers Corner Live.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was a fun interview and with another woman from Nashville. So the other thing is I'm doing book signings, and I'm doing them as a book signing singing event with a very popular singer-songwriter, Appalachian folk singer-songwriter, has 5 CDs, named Jay Clark. He's known here in this area really well. So at Vienna Coffee, which is it's like 5 times the size of a regular Starbucks, is here, and it's featured in the novel. There's a whole chapter on Vienna Coffee. Russ remembers from reading it. Anyway, Jay Clark and I are going to do a book signing singing event, and I don't have the ad in front of me right now, but there'll be a huge tabloid ad in the local paper that has this information, plus the fact that in addition to the Texas Library Conference, I don't know if you can see at the bottom there, the book is now featured in the London Book Fair and the American Library Association Annual Conference. I'll bring this with me to the TLA. So just a bunch of stuff that's all kind of exploding. I will say putting the book on Ingram Spark really made a huge difference, because not only is it now featured all over the world in lots of like Kobo and Take a Lot is the name of the one in South Africa, but it's now popping up in independent bookstores in Lansing, Michigan, and Raleigh, North Carolina. And there's another one I just saw yesterday, and I was trying to figure out where it was from. But anyway, a lot of good stuff happening, and it's like, whoa, a little bit over the top. But I'll be ready for the Texas Library Conference. I've got my little stands here and everything.
All right. Well, that's great. It looks like Beth is trying to get on, Russ. I don't know if you can.
Well, she's on
chat.
She's on YouTube, so she can't get into. Beth, if you go into your email and you click the link to StreamYard, you can get in. So.
I have one more thing to add, and that is, Jane, my wife says, you're just so into shameless self-promotion. And I said, Jane, I have to be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's the only way it gets out there, you know?
That's your job now, Bill.
It's in my job is shameless self-promotion in a humble way, you know?
Yes, in a humble way. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed the book, and I hope a lot of people can have the opportunity to read it and enjoy it like I have. So thank you so much.
Good. Now, that's all I have right now.
All right. Well, that's great. So
I want to hear about Merrie now.
So, Merrie, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, Kathleen and Bill knows a little bit about you because Merrie used to go to church when Bill was our senior pastor. We all went to church together. And so Merrie was a big part of helping us record and the lessons that we had every Sunday. And so we certainly appreciated that all the years that she did that volunteer job for us as a church. But tell us how you got into writing, Merrie. Have you always been a writer? I think you've always written, haven't you? But
I've always been a writer. I started out actually as a poet. I was writing a lot through my teenage years, and when I graduated from college, I was actually named the Young Poet of New York. Then I ran smack into what was happening to modern poetry. And that pretty much took care of poetry for 50 years. But the Philadelphia Inquirer hired me as a reporter. I'm not really a journalist. I'm more of a commentator. And I have 2 books out, 3 actually, that are on our website. One called Marketplace Communication, which is a compilation of all my commentaries on the NPR show Marketplace. One called Words Matter, which is a compilation of all my columns for the business desk at UPI. And one called You Said What? Which is a compilation of our monthly memo that we've been publishing for years of blunders and bloopers called the Bimbo Memo. But this was my first foray into writing children's books, and it was a present really for my granddaughter, Martha. And it's inspired by actually, my grandmother had a number of stories that she would tell over and over again, and we would ask for them by name, and she wrote them all down. And it occurred to me that I should do the same thing for at least for my grandchildren. And so this is a story. It's called Baby Bear Comes Back, and it's a story about love and loss and love.
Right.
And it's
I love it.
and I had a lot of fun writing it. In fact, as Liz knows, and I'm very grateful to Liz for her mentorship on this, we have a second series that's planned to follow this. But this is my maiden voyage to learn about what to do. So I will be at the Texas Library Association conference next week. And what I'm really there to do is just listen and learn and be a sponge.
Yeah, there'll be a lot to learn. So Bill and Kathleen, actually, I guess I'm the only one that's been before. Beth was trying to get on. Maybe she'll figure it out, but she's been before. But most of the people coming with us next week, GE has never been before. GE Johnson, she's one of our other nonfiction writers and fiction. She writes both. And so they'll be here. Brian Moreland, who's our horror author friend that Kathleen and Bill have met before on a call. So we'll be there, and it's 4,000 or 5,000 librarians from the state of Texas, and these are public and school librarians for the most part. I would say there's probably 60% school and maybe 40%, 35% public librarians, and then there's some specialty librarians. There will be some college and universities and some museums or cultural centers that just happen to have bookstores, and there may have a library or a media person, and so they may show up too. So Texas, obviously a big state, but there should be conferences all around at any state in the especially in the U.S. And the conference that Bill was talking about, the American Library Conference, that's the national meeting. And then these are all the state meetings that are down under that National American Library Association meeting. So, but anyway, it's going to be a great time. We'll be there for 3 days, 2.5 days, basically, because half day to set up and then a half day there and then 2 full days. And so we're going to be signing autographs. We've got a special area set up. They have a special area set up. So each of our authors are going to have 30 minutes every day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, to meet readers, to meet librarians, to sell their books, to autograph their books, to have conversations with people. And that's really what it's all about. It's just about having a conversation with people, making an impression, in that short amount of time, because you got a lot of people coming by. And for us, trying to gather that information so that then we can then follow up with them. And so it's a fun time. There'll be 200 vendors there. The Barnes and Nobles will be there. The Scholastic, who's the huge children's publisher, will be there. They're just down the aisle from us. The Macmillan, Harcourt, Brace, Jovanovich, all of these big publishers. The Big Six will be there. The Random House, the Simon & Schuster, the ones that have adult books, because these will be adult librarians and children's librarians. So it'll be a mix depending on, who's coming by, and you never know, who the purchasing director is. Most of these librarians are going to take our information back to their school or back to their branch library, and then they're going to make a decision probably in the summer, because they're going to be buying for the fall, and then they're going to be buying for the spring. So schools have 2 budgets. A lot of public entities, if you've ever worked with public entities, they have October to September budgets. So like the city of Dallas, that's got 36 branch libraries, they're going to get a new budget in October. Okay, so each year they get a new budget, and the library gets a certain percentage of that budget to buy new books. So that's the great thing about libraries and schools. They get new budgets every year for us authors. And so they're always looking for the new stuff, and so they're going to remember, hey, I was at the library conference 3 months ago and I met this fabulous author, Kathleen Walls, and she has this really cute series on hip hop, the hip hop series, Bunny, they're going to remember that because of the characters and because of the animation she's doing. And so so Kathleen, why don't you share a little bit about that, because you got more than just the books, don't you?
Well, I'm just going to bring the books, but I do have additional merch. Like, it's funny because usually I have my mug right here, but I don't have it with me. But I have mugs and tumblers and T-shirts, and when we were all with masks, we had masks as well, puzzles, and so different items, pillow cases with the images of Froggy T and Bunny on them. I'm currently working on a coloring book as well, because with each new series or each new story, I introduce new characters. And so yeah, so just looking at all of the different ways that we can increase the desire for the product, and obviously send people back to getting the books. One of the things that I've done recently with the newest books is start to incorporate some of the images from the previous books into the stories, which is then driving people back to the books that they don't have, so they can catch up on some of the other tales.
Yeah, great strategy. And so on the first book, she's got an animated version, and that's really helpful too. And then so she's been doing social media promotion with the voice talent. So she's got somebody that's doing the voice for Froggy T, a gentleman, and she's got a lady that's doing Bunny.
Yes.
And so just a picture of them with a book, that's another way to put something out there that's, and they're talking about how exciting it was for them to be able to be the voice of this character and be asked to do this and invited to participate. So all of these things are down the line things, and some of them are revenues, because that's what you want to look at. We want to look at, if you're going to have an author career, you want to look at what are the streams of revenue. Yes. So obviously the books are one stream, but as we all know, we're not going to get rich and quit our day jobs, based on selling one book. It's just not going to happen. You've got to have that upsell, or you've got to have a series, or you've got to have something else you're offering, like speaking or training or teaching or something related to whatever your topic is. For a lot of people with nonfiction, they can do a workshop, for instance, or they can do consulting, or they can do surgery, or whatever it happens to be. But when you're writing fiction and children's books, it's a little harder. It's a little different process, because you don't have maybe as many streams, and so you've got to do what you can, like Bill said, shameless self-promotion, and just everybody you talk to is it. And the funniest thing to me is almost everybody tells me, "Oh, Liz, I can't post that much because everybody will get mad at me." Well, people don't understand, because they're not in the marketing business like some of us have been, that people only see it maybe 1 out of 3 times or 4 times that you post something. And on social media, it's even worse. I mean, it was bad enough when you had
a dozen times.
Yeah, bad enough when you had the newspaper. At least that stayed around a little bit longer. Or you had a television show, or a radio station. But now with social media, if they don't see it in the first 15 to 30 minutes, they're not seeing it unless they go back through their feed. Okay, so
that brings up a good point, Liz.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
At this conference, one of the things that I would encourage authors to do or think about are building relationships with the individuals that are attending this, looking at books, because like you mentioned, they might not purchase books the day of or the week of the event. However, they may be interested in enough, and when they get down in October and they're looking at purchase orders, if you keep in contact and build a relationship with those individuals, the chances that you could get your book purchased is going to increase. So
that brings me to a question. You said something about they go back and decide, but shouldn't we be giving them something to make that decision? Like, I've got 2 different pages here that this is the one that I did as an ad for both the American Library Association and the London Book Fair. It's in a catalog that will be digital catalog for 2 years solid. This one's a little bit easier to read, but it's got catchy phrases about, on sale in 37 countries and 5-star reviews, all that.
Right.
And I only have like 50 copies of each of these. Maybe I should have more copies of these kinds of things. If there are 4,000 or 5,000 people there, just give us a little. And business cards, it seems like we should have also, I would think.
Well, and like you say, most of us have bookmarks or business cards, and if you don't have those, we can get those done for you pretty quickly, or you can get those done quickly. I would say
done this week.
Yeah, I would say on the flyers bill that you might want to wait and just get them done there, so you don't have to carry because you're traveling. But or send it to us and we'll do them. But because just like we got your books, I got your suitcase loaded here and ready to go. And but yeah, we probably you probably don't need 5,000, but you probably need 100 or 200 because there's going to be those people that are going to stand there and talk with you for 30 minutes or an hour, and then everybody else is going to be 5 minutes.
Take this.
Right. And so a lot of them will just come by and pick up the information because they may be the assistant library or the children's librarian, and the main librarian is who orders the books, but they didn't come this year because they came last year. And not everybody can come because they can't close down the libraries. They can't close down the school. School's going to be open on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, And so somebody has to fill in for them. And a lot of times with the schools, they only have one librarian. They don't have multiple librarians, depending on the size of the school. But, and so that's the thing. You never know, when the sale is going to happen. But this is more of a get in front of people, at a lot of people at one time, and meet other authors, meet some of these other publishers and the supportive activities, because there are going to be other people there. They're going to, like, behind us, there's a web company that's going to be behind us, and next to us is a company called Brain Fuse, which is actually a training group for K through 12 schools, as well as corporations and colleges and universities. So, I'm sure anybody on our call can speak, can do training. And everybody here is probably a potential consultant for this Brain Fuse company that's going to be in the booth next to us. So you never know.
I just want to mention, Liz, that Beth piped in and said, when we got the theory of building relationships, my success started happening. So it's really, that's another thing. It doesn't necessarily mean the librarian, or there's other vendors there that might, you might be able to develop some relationships with, that you can actually expand your revenue streams. So that's another great point that I just want to make sure that we're putting out there. And,
and so that's it. You never know who you can partner with, who somebody that's there that goes to shows all the time. They may be looking for some other products to promote. They may be looking for somebody else's stuff because they only have a few things, and so you
may
never
want
know.
A mug from Kathleen.
That's right. They want one of Kathleen's mugs or one of our t-shirts.
So if I sent you this kind of thing that would be a flyer, you could make copies, or we'd make copies there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, because easily there's a FedEx or an Office Max, or they probably even, we probably don't want to use the business office there at the hotel or convention center because it's probably really expensive. But, there's going to be some place between our Airbnb and the conference center, that we can stop in and have 100 copies made, for 25 cents instead of, $4 kind of thing. And then I'll also check the pricing when we get off here tonight too, and send that to you and see what our print place. We got a local print shop that's, they're an online printer, but they actually have to have a plant here. And so I can pick up the materials, and they've been the least expensive, or within $5 or $10 of any estimate I've ever gotten. And I always try to get 3 estimates on printing just so I keep comparing prices. So
sure.
So Kathleen, what's another expectation, or what's another goal for you at the library conference?
Oh boy. Well, let me say this first and then I'll answer that. One of the things I was going to say is the multiple ways in which the product is completed has been helpful. So, for instance, my books are obviously available in print, but also ebook format. And then I do the digital illustrations with the voiceovers. And then the one book currently is in animation. So that way, this one product comes in 3 to 4 different ways. So those are 4 different revenues for me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the teacher in me is because I also know that everybody learns differently. So I want to be able to provide those different formats, that differentiation for them. So, as you mentioned, now to answer your question, is the relationship building piece is very important for me because although the book started out as, like you said, a poem for a friend of mine, it has morphed into a whole social and emotional development curriculum. And so there's 3 other books in queue that are in the process of being illustrated that should be finished by the end of this year. And so being able to connect with school libraries and so forth is very important. Librarians, as well as the public librarians as well, is very important for me because we know in our current world that social emotional curriculum is highly needed. And ironically, when I started my career as a psychologist, I started out as a social emotional consultant for schools. So it's coming full circle. And in all my books, there's processing questions at the end as well as the glossary. So it's a perfect blend of my early childhood, elementary, and middle school education teacher in me, as well as the clinical psychologist in me.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's right. So those are the things that you can do by asking those questions. I mean, and even like Bill, even though he's got a fiction book, he's doing book clubs. He's doing, and so when he goes to do a presentation with a book club, he could come up with 5 or 6 questions to ask those people related to the characters or the location, Bill, or something,
Right.
related to the book. And you know how to do that. You've taught yourself. And so, any of those things that engage people in the conversation, in the story, in the storytelling, so it makes it an experience for them is going to be helpful for sure. So, those are the things. And then, like you say, it's going to be interesting because, like you say, you never know who's going to be there. There also are curriculum directors. Like a couple of years ago, we were at the library conference, and this must have been in Dallas. And a lady came by and she said, "Do you have a workshop to teach teachers how to teach creative writing?" I'm a curriculum
Mm-hmm.
director. I've got language
Mm-hmm.
arts. I've got new teachers coming in and they don't really know how to teach writing because they didn't learn that
Mm-hmm.
when they were in school. They learned a lot of other educational theory and a lot of other educational things, but unless they had a focus in writing, they didn't learn how to do that. And she said it'd be great if y'all had a workshop for that. And we all, looked at each other like, well, that never even crossed our mind. So, somebody's going to come tell you something and you're going to go, what? Oh, okay. But the more you think about it, the more it's going to percolate. And you're going to go, yeah, why couldn't we, as a group of
Mm-hmm.
authors, do a workshop to teach creative
Mm-hmm.
We can. All of our people have a creative writing background. And so, would we maybe have to check some things out as far as the testing and things like that they want the kids at certain levels to learn? Sure, we would. But some of us know that, and it's easy to look up if we need to look up that information, and it builds something around that. So there's all kinds of opportunities, and you just never know where it's going to come from. You just got to be
Yeah.
open to it and willing and wanting to do. Merrie, while we've got you, I just wanted to ask: is there something that's come to your mind as a PR person, as a person who wrote for the newspaper, wrote for UPI? Storytelling, obviously, always a very important thing in any kind of business or any kind of anything anybody's trying to do, especially now. That's marketing is what I say. Seth Groen said, marketing is not about sales and marketing anymore. It's about storytelling, which it always kind of has been. but now it's even more story focused because of social media and other stuff. But do you have any thoughts about that, Merrie, that you think as authors we should should consider from a PR standpoint or a media standpoint?
Actually, I'm struggling, Liz, because this is my first foray into children's literature. If we wanted to talk about political stuff, that's my home turf, but I think I'll stay off that for today. Say I'm really in a learning mode and soaking up what everybody else is saying.
Do you have any questions, I guess, is another way of asking is, as we learn and absorb information, if questions come up, you have resources available to you to ask those questions. So this is one of the places that I really enjoy connecting with other authors, and like Liz has been a tremendous resource for a lot of authors that I think, asking questions and starting conversations and building relationships are so important for us every day in order to accomplish our goals and see what we're going to do. But it's great to have you here, and I look forward to joining everyone in Austin.
Is our time up already?
Oh, is our time up? Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, no, go ahead. No, last comment from everybody.
I was just gonna say one thing that happened to me with one of the book clubs I met with is that, and it was right at the point that I was putting the book on Ingram Spark and making the final little changes to the Amazon version, because you can change the Amazon one as much as you want, but once you get it on Ingram Spark, it's starting to lock it in a little more. And one of the several of the questions that came, well, why did such and such happen? And why did so-and-so? And I said, that's something I need to fix. And I went back with one sentence in one place and one sentence in another. And then in addition, someone said, I think that former CIA director ought to be African American, and then Morgan Freeman or Denzel Washington could play him in the movie. And I go, that is perfect. So he got switched, and now he's African American, the first African American CIA director, And so it's fun what happens in these book clubs, because if you're still forming the book, and once you get to it, finally it's there. But I was able to make those cool little changes, and it was great from the book club itself. And I went back and told the members of that book club, they helped the book be even better. And that made them want to recommend it even more,
Right.
It's interactive stuff like that. See?
Interesting. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. Because the other people reading don't know, okay? The person that bought it last week, they don't know that you made a minor change or added a sentence the next week, and they don't even care, because they were reading for entertainment or education or whatever. Now, I mean, if it was an important tip or strategy, you can let them know. But if they got an ebook version, it's going to update to the new version. So they're going to get the next time they download it, it's going to download the new version, and they're not even going to know that a sentence was added. They're just going to get the current version when they turn on their machine, if it's been turned off. So a lot of that is going on. But well, Merrie, we're so excited that you're going with us, even though your book's not quite published. We're pre-selling Merrie's book. Baby Bear Comes Back. It's a really cute story. It's about, like you say, love and relationship and generational family relationships, which all of us hopefully have experienced. And it's a story that everybody, I think, people can relate to. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun for her. It's the cutest bear too. And then Kathleen, we know Frog T and Bunny are great, and we'll try to have some communication there. So maybe we can run some little clips or something. And for those of you that are going, I mean, Russ is coming too. He's an author, and we're going to be doing our publishing book. We have a new publishing guide called Author Adventure, of course, 5 Secrets that parallels the show here. But he also is going to be videotaping. So we're going to want to be taping, doing some short clips for social and promotional opportunity. So be thinking in your mind, what am I going to say? Hi, I'm Dr. Kathleen Walls, and this is my, series about y'all know what to say already, but just be practicing a few lines, if you will, so that, if it's too loud inside, we'll go out and find a little space in the hallway, or maybe we'll do it at the house on Thursday night or Friday night, because we're actually going to have dinner for everybody over at the Airbnb house that we're staying at.
We'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen for sure. So, well, thank y'all for jumping on here with us today. This has been episode 34. And so we just want those of you that are watching and listening to know that one of the opportunities for you is conferences, library conferences, school conferences. I mean, there are technology conferences, there are women's conferences, there are political conferences, there are all kinds of conferences and trade shows and expos related, and whatever your subject matter is, whatever you're writing about, there are some places that you can go to meet people and get in front of people. And so we would encourage you to do that. I guess, Russ, any last words, and then we'll wrap this puppy up.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for being here and joining us today. And, it really comes down to starting a conversation, building a community, and reaching out and making those goals happen, because, just like what we're doing here is a perfect example of what could take place when you take a moment and just put a little bit of effort into it. And like I said, I look forward to meeting everyone, connecting, and starting a conversation with each and every one of you. So, and Liz and I haven't even met. We've never met in person. So it's like,
that's funny.
We've been working on and off together for, a couple of years now.
Right.
That's amazing.
And Kathleen and I, 5 years,
Yeah.
And
I know.
I met her lovely husband because he was kind enough to come down and film for us a couple of years ago. He filmed with Jay Steven, our chef, one of our chef clients here locally that will be jumping on in and out with us, and recently moved to Florida. And so they were supposed to get
and with Cleo.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
Cleo.
Mr. Cleo Hearn, like you say, shameless self-promotion. You see behind me, that's my new little children's book with Cleo. Senior centers, like Beth is talking about. Yeah, she was just over at Senior Center. Oh, looky there. Beth was over recently at a senior assisted living center, and that they're always looking for speakers and people to come, and a lot of their active seniors. Yeah, a lot of their active seniors too, especially, are still readers, because these are older people that were used to reading. They read all their lives, and so that's a big market for people. And so anyway, well, we appreciate y'all being here. We went a little bit long today, but I'm glad we did. But we'll be seeing each of y'all on again individually, because we want to hear about your new projects. And Bill, we want to hear a little bit more about that matchmaker story that you got going on there. And you can tell us about that too when we get to Austin next week after next.
Sure.
All righty. See y'all. Thanks.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in Austin.